The ability to hide in plain sight, move without being heard, or even disguise yourself as someone else are advantageous skills for any predator. Through the use of Obfuscate, you can lurk in the shadows spying on prey, eavesdrop on private conversations, or even navigate a crowd of people as if you belong there. Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Mekhet, and welcome back to our World of Darkness. And tonight we're going to be going over some of Mind's Eye Theater's Vampire the Masquerade Laws of the Night, specifically the disciplines. This is a level by level, where we will be going through each individual level of a discipline power that can be found for vampires in World of Darkness games, specifically for live action roleplay, for LARP. Now, these can get a little bit confusing and long-winded. Therefore, I have provided time codes in the description below so that you can fast track to the information you need for each individual discipline. With that, let's go ahead and get started with the general information that you all need for using disciplines using the Laws of the Night system. When a mortal is embraced and becomes a vampire, they have innate supernatural powers called disciplines. When a vampire feeds on human blood, they learn to refine and temper the resonance of the victims to unlock terrifying and devastating powers of the blood. These powers range from supernatural strength, speed, and resiliency to the ability to subjugate the minds or cloud the perception of enemies and others. Disciplines are rated on a scale from 1 to 5 dots. After character creation, a character must purchase additional dots with XP. Each unique discipline has the following general characteristics. Type. Are the discipline powers mental, social, or physical? Masquerade risk. How dangerous to the masquerade is using a majority of this discipline's powers? Blood resonance. What type of blood must be consumed to learn this discipline? Each power within a discipline has a cost, usually a simple or standard action, and or a number of required rouse checks. Each discipline power also has a listed duration. Learning disciplines. Learning a dot from an in-clan discipline requires a downtime action from the vampire, as they find and feed upon a mortal with the correct blood resonance of that discipline. If a vampire seeks to learn a discipline that's not an in-clan, she must drink 1 rouse check's worth of blood from a vampire who possesses that discipline, in or out of clan at any level. She must then spend a downtime action feeding upon a mortal with the correct blood resonance for that discipline. This process must be repeated each time she wishes to learn a dot of an out-of-clan discipline. Learning Oblivion or Blood Sorcery as an out-of-clan discipline is the exception to that rule. In addition to those requirements, the learning vampire must be willingly taught by a vampire who possesses Oblivion or Blood Sorcery as an in-clan discipline. This requires a downtime action to be spent by both the learner and the instructor. Thin blood vampires must possess the vampiric discipline merit prior to learning 1 selected discipline. Selecting powers. Every time a character gains a dot in a discipline, they must choose 1 power from that discipline list. The power chosen must be equal to or less than the new level of dots she possesses in that discipline. Note that choosing a lower level power does not provide a discount on the discipline dot purchase. For example, a Brujah who started the game without any potence wants to learn both Prowess and Soaring Leap from Potence. They purchase Soaring Leap with their first dots for 5 XP, and Prowess with their second dots for 10 XP, requiring a total of 15 XP. Amalgams. Amalgam powers are special powers that require proficiency in more than 1 discipline. They may be selected instead of standard discipline powers when you purchase a new discipline dot. In order to select an amalgam power, you must also possess the listed number of dots in the prerequisite discipline. Amalgam powers count as belonging to both disciplines for all purposes. Also, as a side note, any amalgam can be purchased by any clan. Unless otherwise stated, the only prerequisite for purchasing an amalgam is having the number of dots in the secondary discipline listed and the experience points to purchase it. Using disciplines. The following rules apply to all discipline use, unless otherwise stated. A discipline power can be used on the same target on subsequent turns, even if the first attempt failed. Multiple instances of the same discipline power do not stack. If a power has a duration and is used multiple times on the same target, the duration resets and begins again, instead of having more time added. Any discipline that has an action cost to activate lasts for 1 hour. A character must be able to see a target clearly to use the power on that target. Line of sight can be enhanced by sensory-based powers, such as heightened senses, but may not be enhanced by technological assistance, such as video cameras. To establish line of sight, the target must be observed with the vampire's own senses. Any power can be ended if the user spends a simple action. Discipline mechanics are written from the point of view of a vampire user. However, if legally possessed by another creature type, consider vampire-specific terms to apply to that user. Partially supernatural creatures, such as ghouls, are considered mortal. If a power has a greater effect on mortals, it will also have a greater effect on ghouls. Other rules and limitations specific to a discipline are listed in the characteristics section of each discipline. A number of discipline powers refer to situational modifiers such as relenting, wound penalties, conditions, and line of sight. For more information and explanation for those terms, see Core Rules Systems on page 83 of Laws of the Night. Combat turn duration. Unless otherwise stated, a power that lasts for multiple turns in combat expires on the same initiative count as initiated, regardless of whether the character who initiated the power is still alive or if their initiative has changed. Gaze and focus. Some disciplines require the target to focus their attention on the user of the power. These powers do not require eye contact, but do require having the attention of the individual you wish to control. Individuals may attempt to find ways to avoid making eye contact, but the powers of the blood are not so easily thwarted. Gaze and focus only requires having the attention of the individual you wish to target. Anyone whose attention is on you is a viable target for powers that require gaze and focus. This includes the following individuals: those who are looking into your eyes, those holding an in-person conversation, not over the phone or video chat with you, those who have physically attacked you or used a mental or social power on you, regardless of the success of such attacks. Gaze and focus gained this way lasts for the remainder of the scene or combat scenario. It is possible for a single person to focus on 2 or more individuals. If supernatural powers are used to make you pay attention to 2 characters at the same time, you might glance back and forth between the 2, or move to a place where you can see both simultaneously. You are also capable of holding the gaze and focus of multiple parties. Transformative powers. Any power that significantly alters a character's physical shape is considered a transformative power. Each of these powers explicitly states that it is transformative. Unless otherwise stated, transformative powers have the following characteristics. Transformative powers last until dawn, or until the user sleeps, is subject to the helpless condition, falls unconscious, or falls into torpor. The user may also spend a simple action to end the transformation early. A character may only use and benefit from one transformative power at a time. If a character attempts to use a transformative power while already being affected by another, the first ends immediately, and the second activates. Transformative powers do not prevent you from using non-transformative powers as long as your current form can reasonably fulfill the requirements of a non-transformative power. When you activate a transformative power, clothing and small personal items disappear. These return when you regain your normal form. A character cannot use physical weapons, guns, swords, etc., while transformed. Conditions are not resolved, nor are wounds and injuries mended or altered when a character utilizes a transformative power. A character with one eye has one fewer eyes in all forms. Obscured characters and out-of-body powers. Some powers allow you to separate your consciousness or senses from your physical body, or to hide your physical form. When extending your consciousness or senses beyond the limits of your physical body, you may do so only as far as the boundaries of your game, or 75 miles, whichever is lower. Whenever you are obscured from mundane observation, or separating your consciousness or senses from your body, hold a closed fist against your shoulder. This signifies you, the player, are not physically present as your character. This gesture should not be used as justification for other players to attempt to detect your presence with supernatural powers. Your storyteller should also be alerted to the location of your actual physical form. If you are able to perceive multiple locations at once, use an assisting storyteller to observe and report from one location. You may also rely on other characters in the scene to relay what happened while you chose to concentrate on one location. Use of such powers does not mean that the other players must pause roleplay while you move back and forth between multiple scenes. Mortals. Some powers have differing effects when targeting mortals. Ghouls and thin-blood vampires without the vampiric resiliency merit are considered mortals for the purpose of discipline effects against them. Fully supernatural creatures such as changelings, mage, and werewolves are not considered mortals. I understand that there is a lot of information to take into that, and what I've stated there are the verbatim, word for word, taken from the book, examples of the general rules for utilizing disciplines when playing in a LARP setting. I hope that was helpful for you, but let's go ahead and move on to the discipline in question. Tonight, my friends, we are going to go over the discipline of Obfuscate, incorrectly called vampiric invisibility, when in reality it's more akin to the Dominate discipline, where you are clouding the perceptions, such as forgetful mind or cloud memory. This discipline is mostly practiced by members of the Banu Hakim, the Malkavians, the Ministry, the Nosferatu, and the Ravno. And those of you who are senior, veteran players, we'll put it that way, of Vampire the Masquerade will understand what I say by the Banu Hakim, the Malkavians, the Ministry, the Nosferatu. But the Ravno are all new at this. Back in the day, the Ravno used to practice animalism, fortitude, and Chimerstry. However, nowadays, it's gone a little different because of the use of amalgams, which we will cover later on. Right now, let's go ahead and go over the characteristics of the discipline of Obfuscate. Obfuscate works by causing an ambient beguilement. It does not create invisibility. It merely forces the mind of observers to ignore you. It causes affected individuals to unconsciously avoid you in all ways, moving out of the way or even pausing briefly to hold a door open. A character will instinctively avoid sitting in a chair that contains an obfuscated individual. There are limitations, however. Obfuscate will fail if the observer cannot ignore your presence. Raised voices and other loud noises will cause obfuscate to fail. If an obfuscated individual blocks a person's intent to travel, such as by standing in a doorway, their power will fail. Unless otherwise stated, obfuscate affects all senses. Unless otherwise stated, obfuscate powers work until they fail. The user chooses to end them. They are pierced by another supernatural power such as Auspex or Until Dawn. Obfuscate works on animals the same way as any other creatures. That's interesting. Back when I was a player, just a simple player, and I've picked this up in most of the games that I run, is I've always said that a good amount of animals can see through Obfuscate. But it is interesting to see them specify that here in the book. So, Obfuscate versus Auspex. I did say that Auspex can pierce Obfuscate. So how exactly does that work? A vampire with the Auspex power Sense the Unseen can detect and pierce the powers of an Obfuscate character by making a contested challenge of their wits plus awareness versus the wits plus stealth of the obfuscated vampire. Now, this does need to have a reason. This shouldn't be something like, well, I just have this, therefore it works. If someone is using Sense the Unseen in a room for another reason, and there happens to be an obfuscated vampire in there, absolutely. If you're playing a character who is incredibly paranoid and has to use that every single time, absolutely. However, if you have a character who just happens to have access to Sense the Unseen, and you notice, out of character, someone with Obfuscate walking in, using it, that's kind of cheap. Don't suck as a player. Like, the game is there to be fun for all, not just for you to notice everything. So do keep that in mind, that there does need to be a reasonable explanation on why you would notice an obfuscated vampire in the room. So, obfuscate and machines. That's another thing. You are utilizing obfuscate to cloud the minds of the observers, and therefore it should not have any effect on machines. A photographer will instinctually pause while taking snapshots to avoid capturing your image. A security guard watching a live digital feed of you will ignore your presence. However, under future scrutiny, your presence will be seen on recorded media. That is something that I don't think a lot of people take into account, is that you are leaving evidence of a masquerade breach at times, if we're talking about people who can't pass as human, that is. So, what type of discipline is obfuscate? It is mental. This is something that is going to affect the minds of those who are you are using it on. The masquerade threat is minimal. There are very few instances where obfuscate is a threat to the masquerade. Most of the time it's used to hide for masquerade coverage. And the blood resonance is melancholic. The destitute, forgotten, and depressed. But then there's also spies, thieves, and servants. These people all possess melancholic resonance. These are all individuals who go about their lives trying not to be noticed so that they can survive properly in this world. So let's go ahead and hop right into the powers and get into what Obfuscate can do for you while playing in Vampire the Masquerade Mind's Eye Theater. Level 1, Conceal. You have mastered the ability to hide any inanimate objects, as long as they remain in your possession. This one's a lot of fun. This is a discipline that was originally used in Vampire the Requiem and has made its way over, due to its usefulness, into Masquerade. The cost of Conceal is free. And the system states, by using a simple action, you may activate Conceal on a weapon or other object you physically possess. This item must be no larger than 3 cubic feet. Objects hidden with Conceal remain invisible as long as they are physically on your person. Conceal cannot be used to hide living or undead beings or parts thereof. Conceal cannot be used to hide negative space. It can hide a chair, but not a doorway. If another individual is looking at an item when you conceal it, the observer automatically sees through the use of Obfuscate. However, if the observer looks away for more than a few seconds, one turn in combat, for example, they lose track of the object, and it will be concealed. Conceal can be used to maintain the invisibility of a number of objects up to your dots in the stealth skill. You may end an object's conceal at any time. If you interact with a concealed object, use it to attack someone or otherwise draw attention to the object, it will become visible. If you place other characters in the position where they must logically acknowledge the object's existence, the conceal will fail, and the object will become visible to all. For example, no one will notice a shotgun hanging in a back holster. But if you reach back and obviously draw that shotgun, it will appear. People might not notice you carrying a book, but if you're struggling under the weight of a handheld anvil, it will become visible to all. So the duration for Conceal is 1 night. Conceal also ends as soon as you no longer physically possess the item you are hiding. So if you put it down, the Conceal is over. This is just a very interesting power, and when you think about the possibilities of what something that is 3 cubic feet can offer, it does allow a fairly hefty item. I'm very sorry you cannot move around living or undead individuals with this. That's just something that pulls too much attention. But Conceal can be used for an awful lot of practical purposes when you're walking in to a building where they happen to be doing frisking or something like that. This will let you walk in with most things. It's a very, very good discipline, and what you could get away with this really is only up to your imagination and how you want to attempt to pull it off. Level 1, Silence of Death. You and your equipment become completely silent. Hearing you is only possible with the aid of supernatural abilities. Silence of Death is a point of contention when it comes to Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition compared to other editions. Purists who have played other earlier editions see this as this is strictly a Banu Hakim power, or Assamites as they know them from previous editions. But now, it's something that is available to anyone who has Obfuscate. People can just have this. Now there's also the uses, where Silence of Death works a lot differently in LARP than it does in tabletop. The cost is free. This is something that you can just activate whenever you want. And the system for Mind's Eye Theater states, by using a simple action, the user silences their footsteps, clothing, equipment, minor collisions, and other sounds of their person. Gunshots from the user's weapon become entirely silent. Their footsteps cannot be heard. This power makes the vampire undetectable if an observer could only notice them by sound, such as when on a different floor of a house. Even an individual using heightened senses will not detect the user. Only a successful use of Sense the Unseen can detect the user by hearing. This power does not eliminate sounds the user makes outside their personal space. For example, this power does not allow them to break a window silently with a thrown object. This power does not affect technological means of hearing someone unless the character has learned the ghost in the machine power as well. And we will talk about that when we get to it. The duration of this power is 1 scene. This is a very useful discipline, especially in LARP, where it does allow you to cover gunfire. In tabletop, does not do that. It's not that potent of a discipline, but cinematic value is so much more important than in live action than it is in tabletop. And there are reasons why these powers are exaggerated to such a just incredible degree. Level 2, Chimerstry. Through experimentation with your Obfuscate and a bit of presence, you have discovered how to manifest distractions into something that can startle anyone who notices them. Here we are with the first look at an amalgam discipline for Obfuscate. The amalgam is presence 1, so you need to at least have the first level of presence to utilize this power, where you are taking the mind-altering abilities that Obfuscate gives you and pushing them forward on someone with the abilities of presence. The cost is 1 rouse check, and the challenge pool for Chimerstry, or Chimerstry, depending on how you want to say it, is manipulation plus subterfuge versus composure plus wits. Now, let's go over pronunciation, because I know that I'm going to get a lot of bleh in the mail. But I have heard this said both Chimerstry, Chimerstry, Chimerstry. There's a few different ways of pronouncing this. I say Chimerstry due to the connection with the Fae and chimerical objects. That is why I say that. Chimerstry can make sense also if you're talking about giving it the shimmer or some other reasons of such. So just please, if you have pronunciations and you have to tell me about it, go ahead and put it in the comments and we'll make a game out of it. How many different pronunciations for Chimerstry can we actually come up with? The system states, make 1 rouse check and spend your simple action as you conjure a sudden hallucinatory distraction. Make an opposed challenge against everyone who can draw a line of sight to the location of your distraction. Any characters that fail gain the distracted condition as they refocus their attention. You may choose to create a hallucinatory distraction centered on your own person. If you do so, in addition to the above effects, anyone who loses the opposed challenge to resist Chimerstry also gives you their gaze and focus. The hallucination can never be recorded or transmitted through devices. And the duration is 1 turn. So for 1 turn, you can give someone the distracted condition, which can come in handy in a combat. Also, the use of this giving people gaze and focus if they use it on themselves. There are so many things that you can cause trouble with when it comes to utilizing Chimerstry in this way. Level 2. Unseen Passage. This power is not traditional invisibility, but you have learned how to trick someone's mind into believing that you are not there, as long as you do not prove otherwise. So this is the one that most people jump to. This is the quintessential Obfuscate discipline, the ability to walk around during the game without being noticed by anyone. Which, of course, with those metagamers like to just go, oh, now's the time to use Sense the Unseen when somebody walks in. But let's talk about how Sense the Unseen works. The cost is 1 rouse check. So if you want to utilize this ability, you do have to pay a little bit for it. The system states, make 1 rouse check and expend a standard action to become invisible, taking with you all inanimate items on your person. Unseen Passage cannot be used to make another character invisible, even if the character is unconscious or dead. While under the effects of Unseen Passage, small sounds, fragrances, and other minimal effects of your person will be ignored by others. If you emit overpowering odors and make noise any louder than a whisper, your Unseen Passage will immediately end. If another individual is looking at you when you activate Unseen Passage, the observer automatically sees through your use of Obfuscate. You will be invisible to anyone who was not looking at you when you used Unseen Passage. And if the observer looks away for more than a few seconds, such as 1 round of combat, 1 turn in combat, they will automatically lose track of you. The duration is until detection. So this is one of those powers that will last all night long as you keep it up and you make sure that you don't go out of your way to be noticed. Unseen Passage is the power that most people associate with Obfuscate. This is obfuscating your own presence from an area. And I can understand why. It's damn useful. Level 2. Cache. Your ability to conceal objects now extends to items not on your person, and up to the size of a passenger van. So this is an upgrade to Conceal. I want to point that out. In fact, that is a prerequisite to this discipline is Conceal. You need to have Conceal to be able to utilize Cache, or Cache, depending on how you want to pronounce it. The cost of this discipline is 1 rouse check. And the system states, when using Conceal to hide an object, you can now hide anything inanimate smaller than a 6-passenger van. At any point, you may make 1 additional rouse check after using Conceal to allow the use of Conceal to persist until dawn, even if the object is no longer in your presence. And the duration is a scene. So what this is telling us is if you make an additional rouse check from when you utilized Conceal, you can make something invisible until dawn. Something up to the size of a 6-passenger van. This is useful. Now, you cannot drive said van. I do want to point that out. Once it starts moving, it's not even the fact that it's not even the fact that it's big. It's the fact that it's just overtly in your way. You can't not notice when there's a frickin' van in front of you. Now, you can use this for any inanimate object So this could be utilized some pretty important stuff. If you're hiding in an old-fashioned phone booth and somebody's running at you, you could always duck in and use cash on that. You could definitely hide something that size. Jump into a dumpster in an alley and use it on that so they don't notice the dumpster. Like there are uses for this power that can definitely make it worth having. Level 3, Fata Morgana. You've recognized the value in putting your presence and Obfuscate together to trick the minds of those around you into seeing an independent hallucination wherever and whenever you'd like. So now we are upgrading Chimerstry. But that is not a prerequisite. This is something that you can go ahead and take instead. And there are reasons to take both. Chimerstry is just a simpler aspect. When you get into Fata Morgana, you start getting into more detailed hallucinations, which can take a little bit more effort to utilize. The amalgam for this is presence 2. You now have to upgrade your presence to utilize this power. The challenge pool is manipulation plus subterfuge versus the intelligence plus awareness of the individuals that you are using this power against. And the cost is 1 rouse check. The system states, spend your standard action to create an independent hallucination that appears real to the senses. This hallucination can move either in a predetermined loop or with continued concentration by the creator. Can change as you wish. A neon street sign can flash on and off. An illusionary guard can appear to walk his patrol, etc. As long as the hallucinations are contained in your visual line of sight and no further than 100 yards from you, you may continue to create and control your hallucinations for 30 minutes. However, any attempt to physically interact with the hallucinations causes Fata Morgana to fail. Similarly, because the hallucinations are not real, they cannot interact with the environment. A hallucinatory sprinkler will not put out a real fire, nor will a chimerical gun cause actual damage. Your hallucinations can add to your world, but they can never subtract from it. A character could create a chimerical wall and hide behind it, but could not use this power to create a hole in the ground, as Fata Morgana cannot subtract the dirt. A character cannot use Fata Morgana to make items or people invisible, nor duplicate other powers of Obfuscate. However, you can use Fata Morgana to create a chimerical bucket to put over an item and thus hide it. This power cannot alter characters' overall appearance, as Mask of 1,000 Faces does, but it can change the color of a trench coat from red to blue. If a character suspects something is a hallucination, she may attempt to disbelieve using their intelligence plus awareness versus your manipulation plus subterfuge. They can also use a power such as Sense the Unseen, which the user of Fata Morgana would defend against with a manipulation plus subterfuge. A character may only attempt to pierce the same illusion once per 5 minutes. Recognizing that something is a hallucination is not the same as disbelieving the hallucination. It is possible to realize that a hallucination is false, but fail to disbelieve it. The subject's subconscious mind simply cannot agree that the construct isn't real. Your hallucinations can never be recorded or transmitted through electronics, and the duration is one scene. This is a major step up from regular Chimerstry, where utilizing Chimerstry to cause a distracted condition or to gain gaze and focus, this right here makes a real tactile experience for the senses. Now, there are the limitations of not being able to physically touch or interact with the hallucinations, or the fact that you have to at least be within 100 yards to utilize it. But when you're utilizing a power like this, it really is up to the imagination of the user. And I do like the fact that it points out that disbelieving is not the same as disbelieving when it comes to this. You can logic your way into anything, but it doesn't mean your mind is just going to grasp the fact that what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're hearing isn't actually there. Level 3, Ghost in the Machine. Your ability to obscure yourself can now warp your image in a recording and even avoid setting off sensory-based alarms. So we are stepping into a whole new level of Obfuscate here, and I don't personally care for Ghosts in the Machines, but I love the concept of it. Not the fact that, oh look, here's an Obfuscate that can mess with machinery and sensors, but the fact that this proves that disciplines are being created, that there are new disciplines being made nowadays. Ghost in the Machine is not something you would have seen any use for or even had existed back in the Dark Ages. So just the mere existence of Ghost in the Machine means that new disciplines can in fact be developed by modern kindred. The cost is free. The system states, once purchased, this power is always active when you have another Obfuscate power active. Your power of Obfuscate now affects artificial devices. When viewed under a live feed, your powers are unchanged. If someone watches recorded images of you while affected by an Obfuscate power, the feed is distorted to such an extent that your true visage cannot be determined in any way. In addition, automated surveillance, such as motion sensors, have a tendency to glitch when trying to detect you. If you encounter security systems that rely on visual, olfactory, or auditorial detection, the storyteller will ask you for a static challenge using your wits plus resolve versus a difficulty based on the sophistication of the security equipment. Rudimentary equipment purchased at a big box retail store are considered a difficulty of 2, while military grade, such as First Light, created systems are a difficulty of 8. So take in consideration where exactly on that spectrum, 2 to 8, the difficulty should really lie. The duration is the same as the power being used and augmented with Ghost in the Machine. This is just such a fun power. Like, how could it not be? The idea that you... also, you're not invisible. And you're not changed on these things. You effectively are utilizing the Bane of Clan Lasombra as a power of Obfuscate. You just seem distorted and a little like screwed up and undetectable on who you are. So keep that in mind when utilizing this power, and try not to be too much of a pain in the ass while you're using it. Level 3, Mask of 1,000 Faces. You can interact with your environment as a completely different person, or change your entire disguise at a moment's notice by simply rousing your blood. Mask of 1,000 Faces is another one of those powers that a lot of people just thought it's almost impossible to play a Nosferatu without it. This is a survival mechanism more than anything else. The fact that it's a level 3 sucks, because not many people get to actually start with 3 points in a discipline at character creation. But if you're willing to take a hit in other aspects of your character sheet, yeah, you could probably do. But Mask of 1,000 Faces. The cost is 1 rouse check. The system states, spend a simple action and make a rouse check to wrap yourself in the veil of Obfuscate, changing all sensory aspects of your appearance. Visual, tactile, even audible and olfactory. You may use Mask of 1,000 Faces to appear as a generic-looking and generally forgettable person, or to specifically mimic the appearance of someone that you have studied. Mask of 1,000 Faces can be used to mimic anything that generally matches your form. A vampire in human form could look like an old man, a child, or a soccer mom, but she cannot appear as a horse. Similarly, a vampire who uses Shape of the Beast to transform into a wolf can use this power to appear as a larger dog, but not as a man. To believably mimic a specific individual's appearance, you must have at least 2 dots of the subterfuge skill. You must also study that individual from multiple angles, and for at least 5 minutes, learning their facial expressions, how they move, and other distinctive qualities. You might be able to mimic someone's face after studying a photograph, but your disguise will not fool people who have previously met that target, as you do not know enough to successfully replicate that person. To believably mimic another character's voice, you must have at least 3 dots of the subterfuge skill, and you must listen to her talk for at least 5 minutes, as she uses a variety of words and phrases. Listening to a recording of that voice is not enough for true replication. Your disguise voice would not have the variety necessary to fool anyone who has ever spoken directly to the target. Mask of 1,000 Faces can be used to change the appearance of your clothing and equipment in minor ways. So long as your equipment does not change significantly in size or shape, a dinner jacket could be made to appear as a windbreaker, or a ribbon around your neck could appear as a fancy tie, but this power cannot make a dinner jacket look like a floor-length trench coat, nor could it make a pistol look like a pencil. Mask of 1,000 Faces cannot be used to make an object invisible or partially visible. You might make a hoodie and jeans look like a suit and slacks, but you cannot reduce them to appear as if you were wearing a bikini. Mask of 1,000 Faces can only affect objects that you are holding or that are on your person. And the duration for Mask of 1,000 Faces is 1 scene. Mask of 1,000 Faces has really grown as a discipline, being able to change aspects of your clothing within reason. You know, you just go, oh yeah, no, I saw something around that person's neck. It was this beautiful necklace. When in reality, it's like a candy necklace or some stuff like that. Like, this really does open up a lot of ability to impersonate individuals and to basically get away with a lot of stuff. And making sure that your subterfuge is high enough is an interesting add-on to this, because it's not just all falling on the discipline itself, it's also falling on your ability to utilize it and your imagination as you attempt to create a good disguise. Level 4. Vanish from the mind's eye. With some effort, you can disappear without needing cover, forcing an observer's mind to obscure your presence, whether or not they're actively watching you. This one has probably always been one of my absolute favorites. Not just the ability to be invisible, but the ability to become invisible while others are watching. The cost is free. The challenge pool for Vanish from the Mind's Eye is wits plus stealth versus the wits and awareness of the individual you are using it around. Now, there are prerequisites to this discipline. You have to have either Conceal or Unseen Passage if you want to buy this discipline. So keep in mind that one of those two disciplines does have to be on your sheet before you can take Vanish from the Mind's Eye. The system states, if you activate Conceal or Unseen Passage while someone is watching, Vanish from the Mind's Eye allows you to make an opposed challenge against any observers. If you succeed, your power takes hold despite their alertness, and you or the object you are targeting becomes invisible at the end of the current turn. To use Vanish from the Mind's Eye against multiple observers, you must test against each observer. Vanish from the Mind's Eye can be used every turn, even if you failed to vanish in a previous turn. This is the exception to the rule that prevents a character from immediately retrying a failed mental challenge. The duration is as per the power employed. So, if you have Conceal and you use Vanish from the Mind's Eye, it means that you can use it on an item, on a thing. If you have Unseen Passage, it means that you can use it on yourself. And you will have to throw a test against anybody who is actually watching. I like the idea of the whole fading away from view, but it also means that the person who is watching you just can't explain why you're not there anymore. They would think that you ducked behind something or they ran off or something like that. It's not you vanish. It's you're just not there, and their brain will typically create logic on why it does that. Level 4. Soul Mask. Your mind is a fortress, and your disguises are so thorough that you can adjust your very aura to best suit your needs. This one's a lot of fun because it reminds me of an old Zamitzi power where you used vicissitude to mess with your chakras to cause you to have an aura different if anybody used like aura perception on you for Auspex. The cost of this power is free, which is awesome considering the effects. The system states, once purchased, this power is always active. Your mind is a fortress hidden behind your powers of Obfuscate. Any attempt to read your mind through telepathy or other means automatically fails unless you choose to relent to their use. You leave no psychic residue when touching objects, making your presence undetectable through the use of Spirit's Touch. In addition, you may alter your aura in any way you choose. For example, you can appear to be mortal. You can hide Diablerie streaks. Or you can appear to be another supernatural creature, if you have seen their aura with the power Scry the Soul before. To alter your aura, you must spend a simple action. Once altered, your aura remains that way until you change it again. If others suspect deception of your aura, they may attempt to pierce your soul mask using the Auspex power Sense the Unseen. If they succeed, they may use their chosen power normally and receive the true results of their power if they already tested and won. The duration is 1 night, which is interesting because it does say that your aura remains that way until you change it again. So I don't know if that's supposed to mean for 1 night or if it means until whatever. It is a power, however, that is active when you have it. This is a great power. Being able to slip past anybody who has aura perception is a great benefit, especially if you're going to be involved in some nefarious deals. Being able to hide diablerie streaks and all that. It definitely makes it harder for you to get caught. Level 5. Cloak the Gathering. You can now extend the powers of your Obfuscate to others. As long as you remain disguised, your disguise extends to each of them and makes a complicated job significantly easier. Cloak the Gathering. Cloak the Gathering is a lot of fun. This is where coterie work comes into play. The cost is 1 rouse check in addition to the cost of the power being extended. So this is not just something that can utilize unseen passage or anything like that. This is actually something that can utilize your entire repertoire of Obfuscate for other people. Specifically, the system states, when you use a standard action to activate Silence of Death, Sense the Unseen, Mask of 1,000 Faces, or Vanish from the Mind's Eye, you may choose to extend the effects of those powers to nearby allies. By using Cloak the Gathering, you may extend one of your Obfuscate powers above a number of willing individuals equal to your number of dots in the stealth skill, to a minimum of 1. Individuals feel a sudden, distinct chill when Obfuscate is used in an attempt to cloak them. But the targets have no mystical ability to know who is trying to use the power, nor to what extent. If any of your targets do not wish to be affected by Obfuscate, the power automatically fails to work on that individual. The power continues to work normally on other willing targets. If the character affected by your Obfuscate becomes unwilling at any point, the Obfuscate ends immediately for that individual. A character can always see through their own uses of Obfuscate, regardless of who she is affecting. Other characters concealed by a single use of Cloak the Gathering can see each other normally. If one of your allies breaks their Obfuscate or moves more than 20 steps away from you, the power ceases to function, but remains active for you and all other characters covered by the use of Cloak the Gathering. If you break the Obfuscate, however, the Cloak the Gathering ceases to function for all. When this power is used to augment Vanish from the Mind's Eye, you only need to test once per observer, as though you had simply vanished yourself. If you are successful, you obfuscate the entire group. You can use Cloak the Gathering to extend more than one obfuscate power, but you cannot extend the same power to more than one group at a time. For example, you might make 5 people invisible and make 5 people look like various circus performers. But you cannot use this power multiple times to make 10 or 15 people invisible. Cloak the Gathering can only be used on sentient creatures and confers no ability to conceal animals. The duration is as per the power used. This is a very interesting one considering how that ends, because it says that you can do multiple groups using different powers. So you could do Mask of 1,000 Faces on 5 people here. You could do Vanish from the Mind's Eye on 5 people over here. You can do Silence of Death to 5 people over here. Like, you can do that. But it says can only be used on sentient creatures and confers no ability to conceal animals, which to me reads, you cannot use this on animals. This has to be on humanoid, vampires, humans, fucking werewolves. Who knows? Like, there's reasons this is like that. But it's an interesting power. I like the ability of being able to make groups work in concert. And it's also a good way of putting a limit on how many people could typically be in a coterie if your game comes into that kind of situation. Most powers that will work on multiple people will not work any more than what you have in a given ability, which is 5. So, just a thought on that one. Level 5, Phantom Hunter. You have become so adept at Obfuscate that when you focus for a short time, you can open doors, make sounds, and even attack someone without drawing the room's attention. So we are on a terrifying level of Obfuscate at this point. Phantom Hunter. The ability to attack and not be knocked out of Obfuscate is a frightening ability. And knowing that it's there makes people who have Obfuscate in LARPs that much more terrifying. The cost of this power is 1 rouse check. And the system states, when something happens that would normally end your unseen passage, you can immediately make a rouse check to activate Phantom Hunter. For the remainder of the turn, you can continue to take actions that would ordinarily break your unseen passage without becoming visible. Until your next initiative, you can attack, be attacked, speak out loud, and interact with your environment without becoming visible. However, if you are still interacting with your environment, such as holding a door shut, or with another character, such as suffering from a grappled condition, at the start of your next initiative, you become visible. If you are no longer engaged in an action that would break your unseen passage at the start of your next initiative, your unseen passage remains active. Phantom Hunter can be activated at any time, even before your turn in the initiative order. For example, if you are struck before your initiative, you can activate Phantom Hunter at that moment. If you attack someone while you are under the effects of Phantom Hunter, the victim catches a brief glimpse of you. They may target until you start your next initiative. Other characters do not see you and cannot target you with an attack unless they have the ability to pierce your unseen passage, such as by the use of Sense the Unseen. And the duration is 1 turn. This is just a very interesting power all in all together. The idea of, oh, I accidentally broke my Obfuscate, I get a rouse check to make it so it didn't happen. It's just a clean slate that is going to work for you. That's just amazing. As long as you do not find yourself in a position where you are grappled or anything like that, tied up or trapped or something like that, you have the ability to just not have come back into sight. That's damn useful. And I'm sure a lot of you can think of a lot of fun things to do with that. I know that I've just got a whole list of things popping into my mind. Assassination for Hire being one of the first ones. So, that was Obfuscate. That is the power of the Nosferatu, the Malkavians, the Ministry, the Banu Hakim, the Ravno. This is a power. This is a severe, dangerous power. Even if you're fans of What We Do in the Shadows, they introduced Jen, who, when she was turned into a vampire, she got the ability to go invisible. And it was considered one of the most special, amazing powers you could possibly have as a kindred. Now, obviously, that's not in the Vampire the Masquerade world, but I can't argue with it. Even in the VTM world, even in the world of darkness, the ability to go invisible, to make things invisible, to hide your coterie is completely useful. It's a little bit different from what it is in tabletop, but most of these disciplines, if not all of them, are. So, do you all have a favorite power in Obfuscate? That's actually something I'd like to ask you, just because this is such a detailed power. So we've just covered a discipline in level by level, and this is everything that is found in Laws of the Night. So as other books come out, those disciplines will be found in the other playlists for those other books. But I do want to remind you that the reason why we are doing this is a quick check reference. If you need to find something or have somebody else basically speaking to help you grasp what they're talking about with these powers, because it can be a lot of information. Keep in mind that there are time codes in the description of this video so that you can get to the specific information that you need for the individual discipline. I am Voivode Mekhet. This is Our World of Darkness, and thank you for joining me into this deep dive, level by level look in a Mind's Eye Theater Vampire the Masquerade Laws of the Night discipline. Good evening.